So today, we're going to dive into something really fascinating, the rules of praying in a group, congregational prayer from the Hanafi perspective. You'll see it's this incredibly detailed system, all designed for unity and, well, spiritual precision. Let's break it down.
Right off the bat, you have to ask two huge questions. In a group prayer, who's the one that steps up to lead? And, what happens if they mess up? I mean, they're human, right? These questions get right to the very heart of how it all works, and the answers reveal a system that's both super logical and deeply spiritual. To help us get through it all, we're going to use a pretty simple analogy. I want you to imagine the prayer as a journey on a ship. The imam, the prayer leader, he's the captain, steering this ship towards its destination. And the congregation? That's the crew. Their job is to follow the captain's lead perfectly to make sure the voyage is a success. Just keep that image in your head. It's going to be our guide for this whole explainer.
Okay, so before we meet our captain and crew, let's figure out why this journey is so important to begin with. What is it that makes praying together as a group so special in the Hanafi school of thought?
Well, the Hanafi school calls it a Sunnah mu'akkada. Now, that's a fancy term, but what it basically means is that this was a consistent, really emphasized practice of the Prophet Muhammad himself. In short, it's something a believer just shouldn't miss unless they have a really good reason, which tells you just how huge its spiritual and community value is. All right, so if the prayer is a ship, you can bet that choosing the right captain is absolutely crucial. So how is the imam actually picked? What are the qualities that make someone worthy of this incredible responsibility?
The Hanafi school lays out a super clear hierarchy. First and foremost, knowledge of the Sunnah. Then, it's about who has the best recitation of the Qur'an. After that, you look at piety, then age, and then character. But what's really amazing here is the principle behind it all. The leader should be the person whose qualities make everyone else want to join the prayer and follow them with total confidence.
And this all circles back to a powerful saying from the Prophet himself. This really hammers home just how important the Qur'an is in the prayer. It's a reminder that reciting the divine text is absolutely central to the whole act of worship. And because of that, it's a key qualification for leading it.
Now here's something interesting. The school also discourages certain people from leading, and this isn't about saying their prayer is invalid, not at all. It's about protecting the integrity of the group prayer. For instance, someone with less formal religious knowledge, or a blind person who might not be able to see physical impurities on the ground, or even an open sinner whose leadership might actually make people not want to come. You see, the goal is always to encourage everyone to participate and to keep the prayer sacred. Okay, we've got our captain. Now let's talk about the crew. Once the leader is in place, what are the exact rules for everyone following along? And just how deep does that connection between the leader and the follower really go? Okay, this right here is probably the single most important rule to grasp. The follower's prayer is 100% tied to the imam's. If the imam's prayer is good, the follower's is. But if the imam's prayer is invalid for some reason, so is theirs. Remember, they're on the same ship. For that prayer, their spiritual fates are totally linked.
And this principle leads to some really interesting situations. The general rule is that a stronger prayer can't be built on a weaker one. For example, if you did your ablution with water, the standard way, you can't follow an imam who did the dry ablution, which is a concession. But the other way around? Perfectly fine. The foundation always has to be as strong or stronger than whatever you're building on top of it.
So beyond that spiritual connection, there's also a physical structure to the prayer. Just like a ship's crew is organized to be efficient, the congregation is arranged in a very specific order. It's all to ensure a smooth and focused spiritual journey.
The rows are arranged with men right at the front, then boys, then those of indeterminate gender, and finally, women are at the back. Now, this structure isn't just random. It's designed to help everyone maintain focus and a sense of order during this collective act of worship. And the order of these rows has some very direct consequences. For example, there's a ruling that says if a woman stands right next to a man in the same row during a shared prayer, the man's prayer is actually invalidated. This really shows how serious and important maintaining that prescribed formation is.
But, of course, what happens when things don't go perfectly? What if the captain makes a mistake? Or some kind of emergency happens in the middle of the voyage? Well, the system has these amazing, built-in procedures to handle those exact situations and keep the whole journey on course.
So here's a really common one. We all make mistakes. What if the imam accidentally recites out loud in a prayer that's supposed to be silent, or the other way around? Is the whole prayer ruined? Does everyone have to start all over again? Nope, not at all. There's actually a simple fix. The imam performs what's called the prostration of forgetfulness, or sujud asa, right at the end of the prayer. It's 2 extra prostrations that correct the error, and the entire congregation follows him in doing it. Just like that, the prayer is saved.
Okay, now for something a bit more serious. What if the imam's ritual purity, his wudu, breaks in the middle of the prayer? That's a huge deal because wudu is an absolute requirement for the prayer to be valid. This puts the entire congregation's worship at risk.
Well, in this case, a truly fascinating procedure called istighlath happens. The imam doesn't just stop the prayer, he discreetly steps back and points to someone in the first row to take his place and finish leading. He then leaves to renew his ablution, and the communal worship continues without a hitch. It's amazing.
And what about when people in different situations pray together, like a traveler and a resident? A traveler gets to shorten some prayers. If they're leading residents, they'll pray their shortened prayer, and the residents behind them will just stand up and complete the full prayer on their own. But if a resident is leading, the traveler has to follow the imam for the full prayer. By joining that ship, they've committed to the entire journey.
So, you see, it all comes together. The imam is the guarantor, the captain who is responsible for the prayer's valid direction. The followers are the crew, and their synchronized actions make sure it gets completed. And together, in this beautiful symbiotic relationship, they reach their spiritual destination.
And all of this leaves us with one final question to think about. How do all these detailed rules, everything from picking a leader to correcting a mistake on the fly, manage to create such a powerful sense of community, while at the same time emphasizing the deep individual responsibility each and every person carries within that group? That's a dynamic that's really worth pondering. Thanks for joining us.